Be happy, be positive, don't smile till Christmas are ridiculous tips that I'm sure that you have heard in the past as a teacher. Thankfully, during my 7 years of teaching, I have both learned and discovered a range of different tips that have saved me some time and hopefully will save you time too. So we're going to start off with more practical tips and then move into more philosophical, deeper tips as we go on. So we're going to start off with hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer is this miracle product, not for the children, although it's great for that, children, adults and all that sort of stuff too, but for the boards. Who'd have thought that that product would take off whiteboard marks so effectively? Now, in the past, I've used little spray bottles, sprayed the board, wiped it, pointless. Hand sanitizer, just an absolute game changer, saves me a lot of time and just gets straight to the point, hopefully like this video will. Number two is to set bookmarks in a folder. When I come in the morning on a Monday in particular, I need to get everything set up, whether it's the register, different things that I need for the day ahead. And I always set those up in a bookmark folder on Google Chrome. From there, what I can do is come in, right click it, and then just open it up. This saves me a little bit of time in the mornings, sets the tone right, and gives me a bit more time to do things that are important, such as making a cup of tea. Number three, we're going to move on to PDF Candy. I've been using PDF Candy quite a lot this year, and it really helps with a range of different things. Obviously, you download a lot of PDFs from websites such as, I don't know, Twinkle, White Rose, and you can do lots of things with PDF Candy, such as manipulate the PDFs, take things out if you need to, but also if you're downloading a whole pack, you can merge that pack together and then be able to share that with children. Previous to this, it would have been a case of putting them into a folder and all these different bits and pieces, but just PDF Candy is just one of those one-stop shops. I'm going to create a different video that is all about all sorts of educational websites to support teachers. I'll link that up there when I've made it, but for now, there's some other videos that you can see too that are linked in the description. From there, we've got a home call is much better than lots of emails. I don't know what it is about here in Dubai, but I always find that you have to do a lot of emails back and forth with parents. If the email is something about challenging behaviour, some of those more difficult times in school, that can be an extremely long back and forward process. So it sounds obvious, but a home call can often save a lot of time and has helped me in the past. Based on that, and on the back of that, number five is ringing for the positives, not just the negatives. Parents love it when I ring home to talk about the positives. I'm not gonna lie, I don't always find time to do this, but it's just that nice little nugget, let's say on a Friday, when I get to have those phone calls home with parents. Now, obviously you've got other means of doing that through things like Seesaw and stuff like that, but that phone call home can just be a bit of a game changer and develops those relationships with parents too. So from there, we've got number six, stickers. I shouldn't have to say this, but yeah, stickers are just a bit of a game changer. I've just found that stickers are just really supportive throughout my 7 years of teaching. Children love stickers, whether it's year one all the way through to year six. I find that the year sixes need something that's on the stickers, whether it's personalization or some sort of sense, because they get a bit bored with the older. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, just stickers are one of those things for behavior, for all those different things, whether it's a good piece of work that just kind of raise the bar. I know it's just a small token, but it's always been something that I can go back to. From there, seven, another tech one, Control-Shift-T. Now that I'm teaching year 5-6, the kids are smart with technology and do go on things that, you know, games and things like that during lessons that perhaps they shouldn't be playing. And to use this Control-Shift-T is an absolute game changer. I remember the first time that I did it with a kid in my class, walked over, had that suspicion that they were using something that they shouldn't have been during the lesson. And, you know, they're quickly fumbling around with a keyboard. And I'm just, oh, okay, interesting. You know, you're back on your mats. And then I just kind of just tapped Control-Shift-T and up all these games came and they went, and it's one of those things that, you know, you shouldn't have to know, but you know, you do. It's one of those nice things to have in your back pocket to kind of pull out. It's also really helpful as a teacher because I know that there's times that you'll click off a tab, whether it's data, register, whatever it is, and go, oh man, and I have to go and click through. So just having that Control-Shift-T to open up all tabs saves me time, but it also is great in terms of behavior management, especially with the older children. From there, get outside whenever it's possible. Obviously, if you're teaching year 6, this is going to be more likely in the summer in the UK, but here in the Middle East, it's the winter. So we have kind of the low risk, high impact of kind of going outside with chalk and just doing stuff outside, whether it's a bit of art or doing maths on the floors outside with chalk. The children absolutely love it. It's supportive for me because it means that the children can kind of collaborate a little bit more as well and kind of peer mark, which saves me a bit of time. But at the same time too, yeah, it adds to that level of engagement. And at the same time, yeah, it's nice. It helps the children, a bit of vitamin D, and it's great. From there we get, obviously being outside, you need to drink more, especially here in Dubai. And another one that's important is obviously well-being and drinking water. I shouldn't have to say this, but I am awful. I sometimes make these videos like I'm watching them. I look back on these videos sometimes. I forget to drink water regularly. One thing that's really useful is having like a big bottle of water, one of those ones that has all the levels of how much you need to drink and stuff like that. Just having one of those is something that can remind you to drink water. And with the older year groups as well, they will remind you to drink water too. The more you're drinking, obviously the better your well-being is going to be, the better you're going to be feeling towards the end of the day, a bit more lively, vibrant. I just find that when I'm actually drinking water and remembering to do that, I'm able to teach better, and yeah, we'll move on from there. Hey Siri, set a reminder too. I've probably set one of my Siris off now, but I've been using this a tremendous amount recently, all the time. Hey Siri, set reminder to do the register first thing in the morning, to send this email to this person. With so many things on as a teacher nowadays, it is so easy to forget to write things down and then for that thing to slip from your mind. So getting that reminder in my phone, I know that I'm going to look at my phone at some point throughout the day, especially with all these social media channels that I have going on. So having my phone and that reminder to pick up, oh yeah, that email, I need to send that to so-and-so. It's just really useful, really helps. Each day you have a finite amount of educational energy, so use it wisely. This is a little bit more of a deeper one, but I think it's important to embed here, especially with so much that's going on in education at the moment. Understanding that you have only a certain amount of energy as an educator is important. Yes, we obviously want to give our all 100% of the time to the children, but we can't always do that because, you know, you might have spent up your educational energy on maths and English, get to the afternoon, children are spent, and you want to have those things in your back pocket where you can sort of not relax, but have that bit more of a downtime with your class so that you can A, develop those relationships, but also recoup some of that energy to be able to support the class too. It's important to remember that you don't want to expend all of your energy all at once and then be wiped out for the rest of the day. So you can either kind of chunk it into those areas that I've just said or kind of spread it thinly throughout the day. Just remember that you only have that kind of finite amount of educational energy throughout the day. So yeah, use it wisely. From there, don't drink coffee after 2 p.m. I know, and this is why I've put the tip before where I have, that because there's only a certain amount of educational energy that you have, when you get to kind of 2 p.m., 1 p.m., it is extremely kind of easy to just go, yeah, I'll just grab a coffee. You've got that kind of short burst of, yeah, I've got loads of energy, but then come 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, you've crashed, you've got no energy to do things like marking, additional admin, all those bits and pieces. But also the key thing to remember here is that coffee and things like that has a half-life. So if you have a coffee at 2 p.m, it actually takes a long time for the caffeine that's in the coffee to come out. I find that if I have coffee that's kind of 4 o'clock, I can't sleep 10, 11, and sometimes it gets to kind of 12 o'clock if it's a stronger coffee where I'm kind of up, and that just completely ruins my week. So I try and keep, personal rule for me, something I've heard in Why We Sleep is to try and keep coffee to a minimum in the afternoon. Quick pause on this video if you're looking for additional tips and support as a teacher. My website, teachtraveltriumph.com, is full of all sorts of supportive blogs. If you're looking at becoming a teacher, whether it's out here in Dubai or starting your first job, I also have supportive guides available on my website too, which you can check out. Let's get back to the video. From there, we move on to sleep, and that's leaving your phone on charge outside of the room. I find that this is kind of like a life tip more than a teacher tip, but if you can improve the quality of your sleep, you're going to improve the amount of educational energy that you have throughout the day. This is something that I've not always been brilliant at. I kind of sometimes start that habit of leaving my phone out on charge. I think I've managed about 2 weeks in the past, and the quality of sleep that I get because I'm not waking up and checking my phone, what time is it, all those sorts of things, is tremendous. And over that time, the compound effect happens, and I find that the more I'm sleeping, the better I'm feeling. So yeah, just leaving my phone out, not checking it throughout the night, and kind of having that time to switch off is critical too, and it really does help me. One of the best ways to say no to people is to tell them that you have a rule. What I mean by that is based on Mark Manson's, I won't say the name of the book. It's a brilliant tip that I learned quite late as a teacher. Obviously you get thrown things as a teacher, especially in your ECT years. left, right and center. Can you do this? Can you do this extra curriculum club? Can you do all these different things? And it's often hard to say no, but one thing that is great when you get thrown these things is to say that you have a rule that you won't do a certain amount of things. So let's give some context. If I'm asked as an educator, YouTuber, to do a podcast, I have this rule that I will only do one podcast every 3 months. What that means is that I have that time for myself, and its ability, it kind of helps because the people who ask you to do those things have to blame the rule rather than blame you. So if you're being asked to do an extracurriculum club, you might say, I have a rule that I have a certain amount of responsibilities throughout the week, and at the moment I've maximized those responsibilities because I do this club in the lunchtime, and it's important for me to have that time so that I can support my class too. And then they can only really blame the rule and understand that you're already doing something rather than blame you, and you don't have that guilt from saying no. It's a really good one. I've used it a couple of times in the past. It is hard to say no, but that can help. From there, you can use Google Lens to translate language. That has been a game changer for me. Google Lens, again, this could be a tip in an EdTech video, and I'm sure I'll integrate it at some point too. I think this is absolutely crucial at the moment with the influx of children coming from other children's both UK and UAE schools. Many children come with a lack of English, or it might be, let's say you're a French teacher. They will have a lack of that language. So using a tool like Google Lens is brilliant. Most schools nowadays have iPads in the UK and UAE, which is where these audiences usually come from. So you can give a child an iPad and use Google Lens. What that will do is automatically live translate the language that is around the room to their native language. That can be really supportive if you've got things like worksheets that you've given out in English and they can just quickly scan, oh, what's this? If you've got things that perhaps you've put on the board, they can scan it and understand what there's on. If you've got displays, they can scan the display. You get the idea. Google Lens is absolutely brilliant. I have created a previous video on this, but I'm hoping that through the side thing here, I've been able to show you how that works. So from here, we move on to some of the deeper stuff. So getting paid more as a teacher always means that you spend less time teaching and more time leading adults. I don't know about you, but I personally came into teaching to teach the children and to get that rewarding feeling from the children when they start learning things and developing. To earn more money in education, you need to lead adults. And for many, leading adults is not a skill that they've developed. I know myself, I am not a good leader of adults. Maybe I'll develop that skill in the future, but right now, no, I'm not. And I get more of a rewarding feeling from supporting and educating children. Unfortunately, to gain more money, you have to get into leadership and leading adults. So you have to understand that sometimes you kind of need to take a back step and just support the children, because a lot of people try and pursue a higher income, especially at the moment, and then find themselves hating teaching because they're doing more leading adults and less with the children. There are, of course, other factors at play with teachers not enjoying teaching. That's not to be excused, but it is an important factor that teachers need to remember of trying not to climb the ladder too much, especially if you've come into teaching to enjoy teaching children. That's something that I try and remind myself regularly to help me with enjoying the teaching process. It's also really important to remember that, because otherwise you can just get trapped into this cycle of leading adults, and then before you know it, you're like, oh, where did the whole supporting children go? I've spoken to leadership in the past and they've said, I miss teaching children, just straight up. But because they've led a lifestyle and they've developed a lifestyle that relies on the income of being a leader, they can't go back to teaching children because they need to have that higher income, which ultimately leads to needing to lead adults. So it's just perhaps something to think about. It's something I try to remember and gives me a better insight as to why I became a teacher too. The next one is about choice, and the paradox of choice means that too much choice is actually a bad thing. When I first started teaching, I believed that I needed everything and I had to keep everything, and I never used everything. So I ended up with a cupboard full of everything that never got touched. So often what can happen is that you can clutter your life with too much stuff. You would have seen the teacher hoarders. I was one of them, but I've had to learn in the past that having too much choice available actually just affects my brain and makes it harder for me to teach because I have too much stuff going on. This also occurs in kind of admin lifestyle with too many tasks and stuff on my brain. This obviously goes back to set a reminder too, but I've had to start learning that I need to write stuff down. As having too much choice in my brain and too much choice of activities to do throughout the week, it becomes too much of an untangible thing to be able to do all those things at once. So yeah, too much choice, bad thing. That leads me on to my final tip, and it's my favourite quote. It is, "Even a broken clock is right twice a day." It's a quote that I love because I've always found myself in situations where things are a little bit more challenging. You know, there's those days where things just don't go right. There's those days where those lessons that you teach aren't 100%, and this especially happened in my NQT year. There were lessons that were absolute, you know, they were just a car crash. It would always be on a Tuesday afternoon where, you know, the lessons that I was trying to, they would just kind of fizzle out. And yeah, I learned a lot of things, but that tip that I didn't have back then is quite funny to reflect on, because even in those moments where those lessons were an absolute car crash, at least the children were socializing, at least they were chatting. They weren't focusing on their work, but at least they were chatting and at least they were happy. So looking for those highlights in those darker moments are extremely important. And it might not be that you can do that in the moment, but it might be, you know, after school when you're reflecting and all that sort of stuff, to look and go, you know what, I'm doing a decent job. Even if things are a bit more challenging, yeah, I'm looking for those highlights of, well, at least that was positive. Again, if you want to see more tips and things like that, videos, blogs, all those types of things, that's available on my website, teachtraveltriumph.com. There's all sorts of supportive things that are on there. This video that I've just made now was actually just going to be a blog, but I thought, you know what, YouTube is my core audience. You guys are the ones that have stuck with me since the beginning, so it makes sense to make this into a video, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Not all of you do that. I think there's quite a high percentage of you that don't always subscribe, and yeah, don't feel free to like and all those bits and pieces too. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, I'm out.